Let's talk about the writer of this meta story, Damien Chazelle. He's an ambitious, visionary filmmaker, one of my favorites. He wrote, in fact, one of my very favorite films of all time, Whiplash, which I know I'm not in any danger of being unique with that being one of my favorite films. It is so good, and it gives you an idea of the type of stories that he can tell. And we have lots of years of getting films from Chazelle. He just turned 40. And think about it, when this film came out, La La Land, he was only 31. He was the youngest director to ever win Best Director. He grew up in New Jersey, as so many of our great filmmakers have. His mother is a medieval historian. His father, a computer science professor at Princeton. He went on to Harvard. He did go to Princeton Prep or high school. I'm not sure how that works, but he went to Harvard College, so highly educated. And the story begins there because that's where he met Justin Hurwitz, who's his friend, his collaborator. He's a musician. He has composed music for all of his major films. And together they have become quite the team. Originally, he aspired to be a jazz drummer. Okay, there's where Whiplash comes from. And that's where the filmography begins. Whiplash, 2014. Originally, it was a short film. It did very well, so he expanded it to a feature. It got made. It won 3 Oscars. Imagine your very first film winning 3 Oscars. One of them, of course, to the amazing performance by J.K. Simmons. It's about obsession and perfectionism and abuse. And then La La Land, 2016, 2 years later, that's where he won his Oscar for Best Director. 2 years after that, he followed up with First Man. He did not write that film, but he did direct it. That one also stars Ryan Gosling. And then Babylon came out in 2022, and that one's about 1920s Hollywood transitioning from the silent film era. It had some megastars in it, and it didn't do as well at the box office or with critics or with streaming. And currently he is working on a secret project. All we know is that it may or may not be taking place in Paris, and his good friend Justin Hurwitz may or may not be involved. So really we don't know anything, but he is working on something. And he's married to Olivia Hamilton, who is an actor and a producer, and he has a child. So how was this screenplay developed? Well, it started based on his passion of jazz and Hollywood movies, musicals, and also what he was going through, this idea of being a struggling young artist in Los Angeles. And the idea originally came when he was in Harvard still, and he and Hurwitz began working on it back then. They wanted it to be a modern day musical. And the first drafts were written in 2009, and it was originally called The Music of the City. So a lot changed about the screenplay and, of course, the title of the film. In many cases, though, the songs that you hear in the film were original, at least City of Stars, Another Day of Sun. Those go all the way back to the original screenplay. And the story is the screenplay went all over town and everyone rejected it and said, musicals are dead, we can't do it. This is 2015, 2014, it's not going to happen. So he pivots and he develops Whiplash based off his passion of being a jazz drummer, which he did growing up. Made that short story, got financing, made the full feature, and then that film was a hit at the 2014 Sundance Festival. After his major success, La La Land was back on the table. As you could imagine, everybody said, well, let's give this thing another look. Maybe it'll be okay. And then Summit got behind it, which is a part of Lionsgate. They greenlit it, but only if he could find bankable talent. Well, I'd say that they found bankable talent with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. You know, that box checked. But perhaps the most fun part of the development story is that the original character, Mia, was based on his good friend and now wife, Olivia Hamilton. And she's a more reserved, cautious person, so the character was totally different. And when Emma Stone came on board, they went in and rewrote the character to more fit her charismatic and out there personality. And that is something that screenwriters have to do. If the character doesn't fit, go in, turn it up, make it fit. And it worked out great. And how was it produced? Well, it started with those rehearsals. You can imagine the amount of rehearsal work that went into something like this. 95 days of rehearsal before shooting. And during that time, 3 months, Ryan Gosling learned how to play the piano. For real. Not just play it, but play it at a high level. In fact, there are no hand doubles in the film. That is him playing the piano throughout beautifully. It was shot over 40 days, which is a super tight schedule for the amount of setups in this film. In fact, 60 locations all over Los Angeles, and that now famous 105-110 interchange that was shut down for 2 days so they could shoot the opening scene, which is now one of the most famous opening scenes in modern cinema. It had a $30 million budget, which is pretty modest for the scope of this film. Lionsgate was the main financer and the distributor. Of course, there was also Black Label and Mark Platt and Gilbert Films. And then Imposter Pictures, that is Chazelle and Hurwitz's company. They also get a tag on this one. It was shot in this old cinema look of the musicals with the 35 millimeter film to give it sort of the grainy look, but also turning up the color palette that's very vivid, trying to match the old Technicolor. And it does, it jumps off the screen at you. And it shows people still like and appreciate that look. We also like the shadows and the darkness. But think about Barbie last year, how bright that color palette was. That's this film back in 2016. It premiered at Venice in August of 2016, did very well. Then it came out in December and made $22 million over its first wide weekend altogether. And then so far, it has made $445 million, 14 times its budget. I'd say that's pretty good.